Well, welcome everyone to the Yosan University podcast. I have an awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
So, my name's Michelle Gellis. I'm an acupuncture physician. I have a practice in Florida and just outside of Sarasota. And I was on faculty at the Maryland University of Integrative Health for almost 20 years. And for the past almost 2 years now, I've been adjunct faculty at Yosan in their doctoral program. And I travel internationally teaching facial and cosmetic acupuncture classes to acupuncturists.
That's really awesome. Now this leads me to the question of how did you, first of all, acupuncture physician? Tell me about that. What are your studies? How did you get into this field?
Well, I got licensed in Maryland back in 2002, three. The uh, the way I got interested in acupuncture was different, I think, than most people. I don't know. Um, my background was in IT. I was a software engineer for IBM and AT&T, and had a child who was born. He's legally blind, and one of the um, issues with his eyes, he has albinism. So one of the issues with his eyes is nystagmus. So his eyes moved all the time. And uh, back in the late 90s, did some research in a library on what might be able to help with nystagmus, right? There was no internet. On what could help with nystagmus. And one of the things that came up in the British Journal of Ophthalmology were studies on acupuncture. And I didn't know anything about acupuncture, but I was living in Albuquerque at the time and took my then 6-week-old baby to see Dr. Jason Howe, who practiced there. And he was on faculty at acupuncture school, the Southwest Acupuncture College, and he was trained in China, and he also was a neurologist, and his specialty was scalp acupuncture. And so he did a little research on his own. He had never treated anyone that young, and he started treating my son Dylan when he was 12 weeks old, and it was fascinating. It was astonishing when the needles went in, how my son's eyes stopped moving and he just relaxed. And you know, the way babies are, they move all the time. But once the needles
Mm-hmm.
went in, Dylan just relaxed and went to sleep. And my sister-in-law at the time is an anesthesiologist. She was practicing in Albuquerque, and she came to watch. And she has since gotten trained in medical acupuncture and uses it on her patients. Anyway, I moved to Maryland. The sun was a bit much for Dylan there, so moved to Maryland and started acupuncture school. So that's how I got started. Acupuncture physician is, so I moved to Florida a couple of years ago. I had had enough of living in Maryland during the winter and being on lockdown. So I came here to sunny Florida, and the title that acupuncturists get in Florida is acupuncture physician. There was a lot of testing that had to go on, and in any event, here I am.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. It's powerful because I remember when I was in school, one of my classmates found the medicine because he was wanting to help a family member. His mother was dealing with health challenges, and and he found that that journey of becoming a healer was personal. There was this personal
Yeah.
nature to it, and that's powerful. Have you, um, as you let's go back to as you were going through your studies, what were some of the things that you were drawn to in the medicine? What were some of the topics and subjects that really excited you to learn about?
Well, in the beginning, so I'm a Worsley trained 5 element acupuncturist. So what really drew me in initially when I started, so I took Dylan for acupuncture in Maryland. He was only 2, going on 3 when I moved there. And I would take him to his appointments and I would sit. And even though I was just in the room with him, I found the experience to be very relaxing. And so I started getting treatment. And for me, it helped to calm my mind. I was always a very anxious, kind of wound, tight person. And when the needles went in, it would relax me. So when I started studying, the thing that I was most interested in was using the medicine to help people who were anxious or depressed or just the more psychological aspects. And so I specialized in that and also a little infertility in the beginning. I focused on that. And then a classmate of mine said someone was teaching cosmetic acupuncture, and I thought that was silly. It just sounded frivolous and um, a little kooky, to be honest. And then I was at a big family event in New York, and someone said to me, "You're an acupuncturist. Do you do cosmetic acupuncture?" And it dawned on me this was actually like a thing, and people were asking about it. So I went and I took a class, and then I took another class. And once my students found out, I started teaching right out of the gate. I worked as a TA, and then we called them level 3 clinic supervisors, and then a level 2 clinic supervisor. And I started teaching right after I graduated, and my students found out that I knew cosmetic acupuncture and they wanted me to teach them. So I started out teaching small classes in my
Hmm.
home, and over the years, those classes grew. And then just through connections, I was invited to teach it in New England. And then I just decided what a great way to spend my winter instead of being in Maryland. So for 20 years, instead of
Hmm.
spending my winters in Maryland, I would travel around the country teaching in Florida, California, Arizona, and my classes just grew from 12 to 20 to now. I've taught classes as big as 60. My average
Wow.
class size, I try to keep them small, but depending on where I am, when I was in Sydney last year, I had like 50 students in the class. And
That's
um,
amazing.
yeah, I love the travel and I love the students. I love seeing the light bulbs go off in their heads when they realize, wait a minute, I'm going to walk out of this 2 or 3 day class, depending on what I'm teaching, and actually be able to implement this right away because I've designed my classes so that um, it's like a turnkey system. You don't have to go off and take other classes. You can, but
Hmm.
um, all the paperwork, all the forms, everything right down to which needles do you use where, it's all the work is done for you. How do you look at someone's face? And decide what you're going to do. There's some face reading involved in it, the emotional aspects of when you look at someone's face, what might be going on inside, because it's not just,
Yeah.
this carrying a meat suit around. Everything that goes on here is going to show up here. So that's a big part of what I teach also.
That fascinates me. For you know, tell me more about cosmetic acupuncture. Are you simply doing local things? Are you doing a systemic treatment? If someone has dry skin, are you going to be addressing that dryness? How how do you approach cosmetic acupuncture?
So that's a great question, and I my basic class is it's cosmetic acupuncture, and it is
Yeah.
how to diagnose someone, um, not just looking at them and saying, okay, they want this to go away, or they want a little of
Yeah.
this, or whatever cosmetic aging concerns, but additionally, looking at the other pieces, because different constitution types and different internal dysfunctions are going to show up differently on the face. So if
Mm.
someone has a lot of internal anger, they might have, vertical lines between their eyebrows. If someone has a lot of stomach heat, it might show up either around their lips or on their cheeks. Uh, so looking at someone's skin, like you said, is it dry? Is it oily? Do they have large pores? Do they have acne? Do they have eczema? Those types of things. And also, are we dealing with a lot of sagging? Do we have lip wrinkles? Are there little wrinkles in their chin? Each one of these different things gets all recorded and then put together into the pieces of a puzzle. And then, in addition to looking at their tongue and their pulses, you're going to put together a treatment plan to address their concerns. But it's not just putting needles in their face. If someone has stomach heat and you're just putting needles in their face, you're not going to be helping to address that. So you have to address the underlying conditions. And is there an emotional basis to it?
Hmm.
Is it a lifestyle thing? Do they have a lot of repressed anger? Do they have? Are they a little manic? And how might that show up? So all of the things that we would normally look for and treat in our patients, and treating that will help to treat everything here. And so I don't use herbs in my treatment as a um, as a 5 element acupuncturist. Herbs was not part of my training early on, so I don't use herbs when I'm treating. And my classes aren't in-depth dermatology classes. There are plenty of wonderful practitioners who teach dermatology, TCM dermatology,
Yeah.
but I don't ignore that completely, because people will come to you with a myriad of skin concerns. So
Hmm.
um, I've uh, written a book, and it
Yeah.
will
Do
be
tell.
out. Yeah, yeah. So I've written a book. It is in the editing phase right now. It's gone through one level of editing. Right now, it is in Lonnie Jarrett's hands, and he's going through it for a lot of the more spiritual, 5-element spiritual aspects. And as he's finishing chapters, it's going to a professional editor who's going to have me cross my T's and dot my I's. And I'm self-publishing. Right now, the book is about 700 pages, so it's going to
Wow.
be, yeah. But it's comprehensive. So the the basis of what I teach is cosmetic acupuncture, but in addition to that, so if you were to go onto my website, which is facialacupunctureclasses.com, and you were to look, you would see I have 15 different modules that I teach, and only 2 of them are cosmetic acupuncture. I have modules in the spirit of the points on the face.
Oh,
I have
nice.
modules on facial cupping and facial gua sha, microneedling. I have an advanced techniques module, which goes through if you have a patient and they have concerns that are more, I don't know if I want to say pronounced, more advanced,
Mm.
sagging, things that are a little more difficult to treat. I bring in facial motor points. I bring in something called submuscular needling, where you actually take your needles and get underneath some of the muscles to help invigorate them.
Mm.
I also bring little scalp acupuncture in, because people's faces can get asymmetrical as we get older. You can get
Mm.
ptosis, where your eyelids droop.
Mhm.
And combining a lot of these techniques is part of my advanced class, especially for the necks. Necks can be really difficult as we get older to treat. The sagging and the horizontal lines. But I also have classes in neuromuscular, treating true neuromuscular conditions like Bell's palsy or trigeminal neuralgia, TMJ, MS, stroke. There are a lot of conditions, especially heat and wind conditions, that can affect the face. And the face is very unique when you're treating it, because the skin on our face is connected directly to the muscles. And there's
Mhm.
no other place on our body where our skin is connected to our muscles, which is why we can move the skin on our face without moving any bones or joints or tendons or ligaments. We can just move the skin. Um, so that's a couple of modules. I have an ethics module, the kind of the ethics behind treating someone's face, because there are things that we don't think about, ethical concerns when you're talking to someone about their appearance, and what might you want to treat and what might you want to refer out. I have a safety module. I have I don't remember if I said face reading, Chinese face reading module. I have modules on self-treating for acupuncturists, because a lot of people, they come to me and they say, well, I can do this to my patients, but how do I treat my own face?
Mm.
What do I do? So I have a module on that. And also something that I put together, which is very unique to my teaching, and that is the based on my 5-element background, the anatomy of our expressions.
Oh.
And so we have, our expressions. And when you make a certain expression, how does that affect your internal health? And
Mm,
how does, or not making it, right? If you don't express your anger, where does that anger go? Because the way we express our emotions is right here.
hmm.
So expressing our emotions, not expressing our emotions, how does that affect our internal health? And then our internal health, how does that affect our facial lines and our facial expressions? So they're all 15 of these modules are all recorded and they're put together on my website. People can do them one at a time, or they can do all of them, and it's an advanced certificate course. And then they can come to one of my live classes for 2 days of hands-on practice, and I do monthly mentoring sessions.
That's awesome.
Um,
That's really awesome.
and then, like when I teach at Yosan, I might be teaching cosmetic acupuncture. I might be teaching neuro. I just taught neuro there. I might be teaching I teach microneedling, both with
Hmm.
just a derma roller, which is a roller with little tiny needles on it, or with a
Hmm.
microneedle pen.
Okay.
Um, and red light therapy, which is really popular for rejuvenating the skin and our overall health. Um, so I joke and I say, I anything that goes on between here and here, that's what I teach. Anything below like here, I don't teach it.
It's interesting because the one of the things I remember is that the face is such a microcosm of the whole, though. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many people. Yesterday, I was sitting in traffic and I looked over at the person next to me, and I looked at this person's face and I said, "This person has some stuff they're dealing with." I didn't not that they're unwell, but there's stuff that you could just see it. I don't know how to explain it, but I could see that something was amiss. And I feel like there's so much that can be seen in the face, and that even if you're just treating this, uh, because of the connectivity of everything, it's all connected, and so this is really interesting to hear about how you approach it, because it makes so much sense that it's an expression of the whole.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, even with all my years of uh, teaching, I more recently than anything, than the past 4 or 5 years, during the pandemic, a lot of us instructors, we were collaborating on Zoom, teaching classes online. And I had the good fortune, I think, I don't remember who was hosting it. Um, Either one of the colleges, or it might have even been LASA, OMS. Um, anyway, it doesn't matter who hosted it. I had the fortune of teaching with Lillian Bridges, who was one of the world's uh, leaders in Chinese face reading. And she has since passed. And she wasn't an acupuncturist, but
Interesting.
she knew the face. And um, listening to her talk about the facial lines, the correlation between what we know, what we see and do when we treat the face, and what she would see and treat and understand about the face, it was incredible. And over the past couple of years, I've purchased some of her webinars. And while I'm driving, even though I have a module where one of her students actually has taught Chinese face reading in my courses, I've been listening to a lot of her stuff. And it really goes into a lot of the psycho-spiritual, emotional aspects of our face, and just what you were saying. And the parallels are, it's interesting. So we're both looking at the same thing, but from different paradigms and coming to the same conclusions. So,
That's awesome.
so yeah.
If you were to give someone advice who's looking to go down this path of studying uh, facial acupuncture, rejuvenative types of acupuncture, what advice would you give someone?
I think you, in order to be really good at facial acupuncture, I feel like one of the things you have to let go of is the judgment that can be around it. Um, in our industry, in our universe, the one thing that I hear, so I just presented at Pacific Symposium in California,
Yeah.
and um, I I had morning, I taught treating neuromuscular facial conditions, and then in the afternoon I was teaching microneedling with a microneedle pen. And one of the things that afterwards people came up and thanked me and commented, but one of the things that I hear over and over again, and I heard during the conference, was, "I'm so surprised. I thought that this was just a superficial treatment. I had
Mm.
no idea that there was so much depth to this." And so in my book,
Hmm.
my cosmetic acupuncture chapter in the book is the longest, not just because of the content, but because of the actual depth and
Mm.
really understanding. I mean, there have been um, uh, studies that have been done on people that get Botox in their, in their foreheads, and they can't move their eyebrows,
Hmm.
and they can't express anger. They can't make an angry face. And what they've found is that over time, they feel angry and frustrated all the time because they can't express it.
Oh,
And
wow.
um, they've also, kind of on the flip side, people who, another place they'll inject Botox is right here
Hmm.
for these little wrinkles that individuals will get on either side of the modiolus
Mm.
in the Brachiaris muscle. Um, and this this area is involved. So, just as a sidebar, many of us were taught by our well-meaning relatives or friends or teachers, it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. Well, that's actually not true. It takes more muscles to smile. But the muscles that are involved in frowning, one of them is this depressor anguli oris,
Hmm.
and it pulls the corners of the mouth down. And when they've injected Botox into this muscle, people who were depressed felt
Yeah.
happier. So because they
Wow.
couldn't go like this, they felt happier. Not, I'm not a proponent of going out and getting Botox, but I'm just saying. So there
No,
really
I
is some
understand.
science behind it. It's not
Yeah.
just I've got a wrinkle here, make it go away, or I feel bad about my neck, or whatever. So getting back to your question, my advice would be there's a few things. One is, understand that it's not just a superficial treatment. And also, there are a lot of misconceptions about cosmetic acupuncture. People think it takes too long, it uses too many needles, it hurts too much. It's not cost effective. And honestly, none of these are true. You can put the needles in a few minutes and go into another room and work on another patient. Come, take the needles out, do your cupping and gua sha, go back to your other patient. So you can easily have two rooms going at the same time. And because insurance doesn't cover it, you're not having to deal with paying someone to file insurance or going through the time yourself to file insurance, waiting for the money to come in. And it's very relaxing as a practitioner to perform cosmetic acupuncture. All that pressure of, oh, will the neck get better? Will their headaches go away? Will their IBS resolve? There's none of that. They're usually very, very relaxed. And the way I teach cosmetic acupuncture, my students sit down. So you're sitting down while you're working. And it's just generally a very profitable, your patients will come to you for cosmetic acupuncture on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they will spend money on their appearance long before they will come in for their back pain or whatever.
Yeah.
People are much more likely to run to their doctor and get a pill than to go under the knife for any cosmetic things. And many people can be very concerned about their appearance, much more so than, yeah, I got this ringing in my ear, or yeah, I get this headache. People, when they feel like they look good, then they tend to feel good.
Yeah.
Especially with everyone, I'm talking to you now, right? I'm staring at
Yeah.
myself for an hour. We're looking at ourselves more, right? We never did this. When
Right.
was the last time before 2020? When was the last time we stared at ourselves for a solid hour?
Right. Right.
Most of us
That's
didn't, so
it.
we're all, oh, I've got a frizzy here,
I would.
or, oh my goodness, my face is asymmetrical. All of our faces
Yeah.
are asymmetrical. Looking at yourself on Instagram, I've had patients rather, come to me and say, I want to look like my Instagram filter. So we're much more acutely aware of our appearances than
Yeah.
we ever were. Most of us used to get up in the morning, get ready, you look at yourself maybe once during the day, you look at yourself again. But we're doing a lot more of this. We're looking at ourselves, we're, checking ourselves out. So there is a huge market for it, and financially it is incredibly profitable. I had patients when I was in Maryland. I had patients that came to me once a week for 15 years. It was like getting their hair done or their nails done or a facial or going to the barber. It was part of their routine.
That's actually
So I guess
awesome.
my advice would be don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of cosmetic acupuncture, and don't think that it's going to bog down your practice, because it won't.
people get stuck in their ways, and people get stuck in their approaches to things. And it's interesting that sometimes you have to be willing to realize that you don't have all the answers, that you don't know everything, and that maybe there's value in things that you don't necessarily understand. So that is a beautiful thing to say. I think that helping these people to let go of your preconceived ideas is great advice. Now, when a patient comes to you, what does the process look like of how do you go about approaching a patient? What are some of the things that you're looking for, um, you know, as
That
a
is
practitioner?
great question. Um, Number one thing I tell my students is do not have any preconceived notions slash judgments slash agendas when
Mm,
you are meeting a new patient, because for some individuals, they might have a marking on their face that maybe is the same marking that a beloved relative had, or they're proud of it. Um, so you don't want to tell them, unless they ask you, you don't want to tell them what you're seeing. And if
mm,
someone is very young or very old, it's all good. I see patients as young as in their early 20s, and I see patients in their late 80s. Um,
mm,
and everyone has different concerns. For my younger patients, they are looking for a way to maintain the youthful appearance they have. They're not trying to
mm-hmm,
undo something per se, unless they have acne or some other skin condition. And for my older patients, they uh, usually are just looking to look a little more refreshed. They're not expecting a miracle. Um,
yeah.
and so I listen and I really pay attention. And I'm not just listening to what they're saying about their different wrinkles on their face. I'm listening underneath that. I had a patient one time, and she was very concerned about what she called her uneven eyelids. And honestly, I don't know, can't see at all without my glasses on, but they weren't all that much different than mine. And again, everyone's eyelids are slightly asymmetrical, but
Mm-hmm.
to see her, I really had to um, just bite my lip because I wanted to say, "What are you? What are you talking about? I can't
Yeah.
even see it." But I didn't, and I actually took a picture of her and I showed it to her and I said, "Okay, tell me what you're seeing." She goes, "Oh no, everyone's staring at me. It's so bad. It's horrible. I'm
Mm,
I'm so embarrassed. I can't go out of the house." But what I was hearing as a seasoned practitioner is, okay, what's going on? Like, what's really going on?
mm-hmm.
And I tried to push that envelope with her. She wasn't going there with me. I could see she was getting a little irritated. I tried all my best five element, ways in, and
Mm-hmm.
I started treating her. And your patients are on the table for a while, so there is time to talk and really kind of get to know them. And it turned out that she had gone through a horrible divorce. She had two young children. And at one point, she said, "I just don't know if anyone will ever love me again. Like, who's going to want me?"
Ah,
And that was it.
mm-hmm.
I was
Yep.
I was like, okay, that's my way in. That's what we really need to do, is tend to her heart, tend to what's really going on. And I was able to, get the lids a little more even, but even long before that happened, or while that was happening, um, through treatment, she just kept coming. And one time I said, so, what do you think? Are you ready to start coming less often? I notice your eyelids are a little more even. She said, my eyelids? I said, that was why you came originally. She goes,
Mm.
oh yeah, I forgot all about that. So it, and this happens over and over again. Patients with imaginary wrinkles, blackheads, large pores, things that really no one would notice. But what they were really wanting was some tending to. And
Yeah.
through tending to all of them, whatever it was that was their kind of ticket in the door, a lot of times they've forgotten.
Yeah.
So I forgot what your question was, but
So how do you approach a
oh,
patient? But
just
that's awesome.
diagnosis. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So really just listening to them, not having an agenda, um, and then coming up with a treatment plan, because sometimes people come in and they got wrinkles here, wrinkles there, sagging neck. It's like a lot. Um, so I asked them what their biggest concern is, and then I'll put more attention there. Um, but every treatment is the basis of my cosmetic treatments is to lift, get everything kind of lifted. And then if they have a lot of fine lines and wrinkles, microneedling, red light therapy can help with the more superficial stuff,
Yeah,
the superficial lines and stuff. And that's quick. That can be done in just a few minutes. So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
When you talk about that patient that came to you, one of the things that popped into my head was anytime we try to untie a knot, you have to, even if it's a very complicated knot, there's one point that is knotting most everything up, and
Mm-hmm.
you might not be able to see where that original knot is at, but you start unraveling, and as you unravel
Mm-hmm.
things, they slowly come out, and you go, ah, there it is, and you do a little bit of pull, and everything relaxes. And I just, when you described what was going on with her, it made me think of that again, and
I may
just
quote
love.
you on that. I like that. I love
Yeah,
analogies. I love analogies that people can understand. And that is actually, it's perfect, because when I see patients that um, they come in and they say, no, just do this. But I know and this is true for anything. If someone has neck pain
yeah,
and you're like, this is nothing to do with their neck. This is something else that's,
yeah,
you know, causing their neck to seize up. Um, Once you kind of get them on the table, they don't have to know why you're putting this needle in or
yeah,
that needle in, and they'll soften. And when working on the face, I mean, there's entry and exit points for every meridian on the face. So,
yeah.
and all of the zong open to the face. So, and I'm all of the fu. Sorry, I have to edit that out. I sound like an
I
idiot.
will edit
Um,
that.
let's say that again. All of the fu organs open to the face. And so by, you know, treating large intestine, treating stomach, treating gallbladder, treating SI19, which is, a point for kind of working right here, right?
Hmm.
You're getting them to listen. And by
Yeah.
treating the face, like you said, you're treating the whole body. It's all right here.
Yep.
And just like not just like, but similar to like Korean hand acupuncture or even scalp acupuncture, which I
Yep.
teach. I teach scalp acupuncture mainly for the neuro and muscular for the face,
Yeah.
getting the face moving, because if you have a patient that has trigeminal neuralgia, a lot of times you can't get near their face, but you can do scalp points, and
Yeah.
that can help with some of that. But yeah, really unraveling the knot, um, and then and their whole world changes, um, and it has nothing to do with why they originally came in.
Yeah. If you could go back in time and change your studies or do something different with your education, what would you do differently your second time
Um,
through?
Within acupuncture,
With acupuncture, yeah.
um, wow, I'm so happy with what I do. I think I would have allowed myself more time to learn about the classics more. When I was in school, we had Elizabeth Rochat came in and taught us the classics, and it fascinated me. Um, but as any of us know, we only have a limited
Mm,
amount of time. And
yeah.
for me, I raised three children. I was teaching at an acupuncture school, teaching my own classes, and I also had my own patients. I had a full practice. And as
Wow.
if that wasn't all enough, I have a completely separate company that I am the CEO of that sells products like facial cups and microneedle pens and things of that nature that are related to what I do.
Yeah.
So deepening my studies were take takes place, um, and I do all my own marketing for my classes. For most of my classes, I do all my own marketing and social media. So any learning that I do takes place while I'm riding my bike through these
Yeah.
things, or other forms of exercise, or if I'm just too tired to create and traveling, um, then I'll see what I can pull up in continuing education. So I think that there's such a rich history to our medicine.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I, pardon the pun, took a stab at like the sports medicine stuff, and as I mentioned, infertility. None of that really. There was no, for me, the juice in treating the aches and pains. I could do it, but
Yeah.
they came and they went. And infertility medicine was rewarding, but um, it was difficult. It was stressful for me because I always wanted a positive outcome, and there's only so much we can control, right?
Yeah.
Um, so so yeah, maybe getting a little bit more of that would have been um, nice. But I mentioned Lonnie Jarrett. He's one of my mentors, and
Hmm.
he has been wonderful to me throughout the years. Just I've written 4 articles, journal articles in the Journal of Chinese Medicine. And after I would write it, I would send it to him, and he was not always kind. He would say, "What? This is fluff. You need more depth. You need more depth." And he's right. I mean, our medicine is very deep, and it's not just about if if this hurts, put a needle here and make them feel better and send them on their way. Because you can begin to feel like a technician. And I think that is why there's such a high burnout rate in our industry. Usually 20 years and people are done, and they start feeling it around 10 years. It can become very, technical. And but the real juice and what keeps people in the medicine forever and ever is doing the deeper healing.